Hello everyone, welcome to the next session on SAP Web IDE training and Launchpad training. In the last session we discussed about basics of SAP Fiori Launchpad. In today's session we will go to the next level and try to see how to create, activate SAP Fiori Launchpad. We will also see how to create custom roles to provide an access to the Fiori apps delivered by SAP out of the box. So when we started this training, we always heard that, or we read that why SAP is going towards the UX strategy for Fiori is they want to deliver an instant value to their customers. With going with that same tradition, SAP has also delivered the standard test content, which everybody will use and create their and give the access to their users for Fiori apps. In the last class, just have a quick overview. We have discussed about the front end and the back end server. We talked about who does what in this particular landscape. So there is a developer who creates the Fiori apps, custom Fiori apps if at all there is a need, and having S develop authorization and deploy these Fiori apps in the front end system. There's a basis user or a basis guy, and also could be called as a Fiori consultant. It could be a developer who becomes a Fiori consultant who's responsible for activating, creating and designing the launchpad. And then there is this business user who is responsible for accessing these Fiori apps provided by SAP. Okay, so that is what exactly the business user does. These business users will access the standard Fiori apps available out of the box. So we will be using this entire approach now, and we'll see how we can design this launchpad using Launchpad Designer. How can we use Theme Designer to provide a custom branding, and how can we work with these roles? So that's a main area what typically a Fiori consultant will do. So we also talked about uh, the details of every application. Where can you find all the details of all the applications which are delivered by SAP? And also we discussed about semantic object. What is a semantic object? So semantic object is responsible for navigating to Fiori apps. It is from the user's point of view, which makes some sense for the end user so that they can understand what this functionality is all about. We don't want to show technical details to end user, and that's the reason we have a semantic identification of every Fiori application. We saw where in which transaction these semantic identifications are stored. For any standard SAP Fiori applications, it is stored in /UI to /SAMOBJ_SAP. And for any custom Fiori app which you built, you need to create these semantic objects in this transaction /UI to /SAMOBJ, which we will see when we deploy a custom Fiori app. Let's also talk about the intent-based navigation, where a usual service is responsible for navigating from one app to another app or within the application. And it's all taken care by semantic object, action, and parameters. Three important parts of it for navigation. Finally, we discussed about content. So there is a concept for content. Content is a collection of technical content and business content. Technical content talks about apps is specific to entire business area. So let's say finance. So all the apps which are there related to finance area is grouped under fin technical catalog. So a technical catalog contains all the apps related to one area. So like fin, HCM, CRM. And then furthermore, SAP deliver out of the box content which is called business content. So if you want to give an access to these apps which are there in particular area based on the business roles, you can use always the business catalog and business groups and the business role. The moment you grant a business role to a user, automatically user will get an access to all the apps related to that particular business role. For example, employee is a business role. An employee is supposed to maintain the timesheet, create the leave request, create a SRM, or let's say if you only talk about in perspective of HR, employee will be able to manage timesheet, create leave request, probably manage contacts and stuff like that. So all this is grouped under one business catalog. So if your company want out of the box access of Fiori apps, you don't really need to build anything. You just have to use these business roles and give these business roles to the end user. They will be able to consume the Fiori apps out of the box. That's the purpose here. Out of the box, when we call it as, this is the part which is responsible for giving an Fiori app access out of the box. Now, then we talked about basics of Fiori Launchpad. We saw how to access the Launchpad designer. So as a consultant, as a technical consultant or a Fiori consultant or a developer, you will be working with this Launchpad designer to enable users to access these Fiori apps. Plus also you got to work in the systems, in the SAP systems, to work with roles, catalogs and groups. So let's get started with Launchpad and Launchpad designer first. So in order to enable the Launchpad in your system, and can anybody quickly tell me which system your Launchpad and Launchpad designer is placed, in front end or in back end? We already learned about architecture. Which system do you have your Launchpad kept? Very good, cool. So everybody knows about it now. It's in the front end system, so which means you have to activate certain services for end user to access this Launchpad. If you do not activate these services, you will not be able to access Launchpad designer and Launchpad both. So this is the first step towards Launchpad. We must activate a couple of services in the system so that user can use Launchpad and designer can design Launchpad. So first thing is, in a fresh system, how to enable Launchpad. When you get a fresh system, and if your basis guy do not know what to do, how to enable this Launchpad in a fresh system. So for that you need to activate certain services in SAP front-end server. What are all those services? So there are certain services available which you must activate in order to make use of SAP Fiori Launchpad. The name of these services starts with, first service is called interop service. This is called interportability service. Then you have page builder configuration service. Then you have page builder customization service. Then you have page builder personalization service. Then you have PGW service, and then you have page builder service underscore V underscore 0 underscore 1, and then finally the Launchpad service. So these are all the OData services you must enable in your front-end system. I'll take one example. One of you have sent me an email couple of days back, which when you were trying to access SAP Fiori Launchpad Designer, they were getting an error that could not load groups. This error was coming. This error also comes because of two things. One is if you don't have sufficient authorizations, or if you do not activate one of the service here, which is this one, customize this configuration service. So if you do not activate this service, you're gonna get this error. So you must activate these services, guys. Without this, otherwise you will get errors. How do you activate these services? Pretty simple. You first have to register these services with your gateway system. For that you use /iwfnd/maint_service transaction to register the services with gateway for the first time. Okay, this is what is very important, step one. And from here only you need to activate these services so that you can start consuming the Launchpad as well as the Launchpad designer. So let me show you in the system. I've already done this step in one of the server, which is AHE. In this case we have AHE server, which is a front-end server. I go to the transaction for main service. So let me just get it into this main service. Oops, looks like I clicked on a wrong transaction. Yes, this is the one, main service. Double click on this and you can see this is the transaction. Here you got to go to add service and mention the service name, It's there in the local system because we are going to activate these services in the front end itself. So it should be the local alias, and then you should mention the service name like interop. Press enter. Since it's already activated, guys, it's not visible over here. Okay, since already activated. Otherwise, you will get it here. The service, similarly, the page builder, cust service, per service, and conf service. These services will be available here. You just got to select them and say add selected service, and then immediately these services will be added over here in this. So you can see here I've already done it. You can see Z Launchpad. It's already available. Z Launchpad. Yeah. And if you just scroll down, you see the configuration, the customizing, the page builder, all these services are already available. Yeah, they are already there in the system. See, page builder service V01, they're already active. You can see this green symbol here which says it's active, and you can see they're active for the local system because these services are implemented, designed, developed, and registered within the front-end server. It has nothing to do with backend. Okay, since we don't have a proper system setup here like development, quality, and production, we have registered them as a local object. That is why you see here Z as the name. Typically, if you have a development, production, development, quality in production, you would not register them as a Z objects. Instead, you will register them as a proper namespace, and then you got to transport these entries inside a package, log them inside a package, and put them in a transport and release the transport reaches to all your three systems properly. Okay, like you can see here, there are some services for SD my contacts. This is productively created and it got transported to the other systems. So you should not register them as a Z namespace in a real-time environment. This is a sandbox system, so I just did it for a local one. So if that's what about service registration for the first time. Okay, I can also just try deleting this. Oops, I think I don't have rights to delete. So let me just try deleting this one of the service. So I will just come here and try to delete one of the service. Let's say this one, right click. Can I delete this? No, when I'm clicking on delete, it's not allowing me to delete. So if it is not there, you're going to get some kind of weird messages, weird errors when you try to access the Launchpad or the Launchpad designer. Point one. Now, moving next step, once these services are ready, you can also test them. So just select the service and click on call browser. It should launch the service in the browser itself. So you can see it is just trying to launch this service in the browser. So you see it's getting you some OData. It's an OData service. It's getting you some data. Yeah. Now coming back to the point for Launchpad and Launchpad Designer. So now if you go back to our PPT and try to understand once again the scenario here, there are two roles, two type of people. One is Fiori consultant who always work with Launchpad Designer, and one is business user who work with Launchpad to access the Fiori apps. So there is one guy who is administrator who is designing the Launchpad. Okay, he is the administrator, and there is one guy who is the user. Okay, understand this. This is an administrator and this is a user here. So they are the users and they are the administrator. So there are certain services. So these services what we activated, out of these services you need to give authorizations to the administrator for these services as well as authorization to the users for these services. Now users don't need special authorizations like in terms of configuration. So the users will not design the Launchpad. Users will just use the Launchpad. So they don't need the configuration as well as customizing authorizations. Okay, they just need personalization authorizations and interop service authorizations. Only these two things a end user would need. They don't need all the service authorizations which we mentioned like configuration, customizing. We don't need this for end user. We just need these two for administrator, but only this personalization and probably the interop service, which is the main service for interoperability, is required for the end user. It's not needed for the only these two services are needed for the end user. The configuration and customizing is something which is an administrator would need. So typically every company should have to have these roles defined. So there is one role for administrator, the person who is designing the Launchpad, and there's one role who is for end user. to access the Launchpad only. So let me quickly tell you what are all the authorizations and how do you develop that role in order to make an administrator role, which is the Launchpad designer, and then a user role, which is basically a Launchpad user. So there are two things. So one is you need to create, if it's a fresh system, you need to create a role for Launchpad designer, which is nothing but he is the administrator to design Launchpad. And then one you need to create for the user or role for Launchpad access. Just a Launchpad, simple Launchpad access, you would need a user who is nothing but the business user. So this role is must, guys. Without this role, you cannot proceed. If it's a fresh system, you have to have these roles. And what is that these roles should contain? Let's talk about these things. So first of all, there is a sample role which SAP provides you. If you want to create an administrator role for Fiori Launchpad, there is a sample role which SAP provides you. So first step, you got to activate those services. After the activation is done, there is a sample role. You need to make a copy from that, SAP underscore UI2 underscore admin underscore 700. This is a standard SAP role what SAP provides you. Okay, it provides you, and once you use this, make a copy of this role. So point one, make a copy to create your admin role. Now what does this role contain? Let's go back and check. So this role actually contains the access entries for the services which we are activated to access the Launchpad. So I go back to my front-end system. It has to be in the front end only, guys. So go to PFCG transaction for role maintenance. PFCG is for role maintenance. Let me add it into the PPT as well. So role maintenance transaction PFCG. We go here and enter this role, just display this role. Go to menu and you can see here the services which we activated, all those service entries are present in this. Okay, so this is basically for administrator who is going to administrate who's going to design the Launchpad for everybody in the system. So this is the sample role what they give. Right now you see there's no user assigned to it. We got to copy this and create a Z role. So this is step number one. Let's copy this and create a Z role. So I made a copy and I can create a Z role here. So say copy all. It's already there. So maybe I'll just make a copy and I'll just name it as underscore new. I put a Z behind this. Say copy all. So this is step number one if you want Fiori Launchpad to be ready in the system. So step number one, it got copied. You have it here. Just go for change mode and you will see in the menu all these services are already available now. So this is first step for creating an admin role. Step number two. Yes, I'm making everything Z. Typically in a real-time system, you have to create a package. Okay, your company will be having a package, or your administrator with the basis guy gonna give you a package for all the role development stuff like that. Okay, and in that case you got to give a proper name, whatever you like, and then you have to transport it. You can also create a Z. You have to create a Z only, guys. Don't create in SAP namespace. You have to create a Z development, but the moment you assign it to a package, you will be able to transport it. Okay, you will be able to transport it. So now we come here and we got to add some more authorizations to this. So this is just the service authorization, SV, if you see. Okay, you need also the service gateway authorization to access these services. So how do you add that? Just go for transaction, click here, say authorization default, and then you would need to select here target services and select object as IWSG. Okay, service group metadata. This is authorization. You will need to access the metadata of all these services. So this you need to select and enter all the services which you have registered in the front-end system. So let me just quickly show you again on what name I have registered all the services. So I go to service maintenance, and here we just scroll down to see at what name we have registered all the services. So it starts with Z page builder conf. So let me just come back and enter Z page star F4 I should see all the services for page builder. You see all 4 of them. Z page builder service V01, configuration, customizing and personalization. Say okay, all 3 comes here. Next, you would also need for transport, because your administrator would create some launchpad. You would create groups, catalogs. So he should have also the authorizations to transport these entries. So for that, there's one more object which we need to enter here, one more service which is responsible for transporting these entries. It's called Z transport, and put star F4, and you can see here Z transport. This one is available. This is also one service which we activated, a transport service for which it is a Z object. So if I'll show you here in the services, there will be a service for Z transport as well. So if I just come down, Z transport must be there. Let's see. We can also filter technical service name Z transport star. Yes, you can see Z transport is there, UI2 transport service. So you got to register this as well in a fresh system. So let me just mention this here, transport service. Okay, so this is also one service you need in the role so that administrator can transport the entries. Now I will show you if this service is not there, what will happen. It will give an error. Simply, it will give you an error the moment you try to open the Launchpad designer. It will give you an error. Okay, now after this, there is these are all the services which we have given a assignment. We have also give the Z interop service authorization. So press F4 and you can see it here, and give this also. So 1 2 3 4 5 6, total 6 services which registered, and all 6 services we given the authorization to administrator. So you can see here total 6 services. PGW is already there, and these remaining 6 services we have given the authorizations to it. So click on, press enter first. You should get a description here and say copy. So all got copied. So here service gateway to access metadata and actual service is this one. Okay, so this is part number 1. So we need all these authorizations. So let me just come here. So this is first make a copy and then give service metadata authorization for all activated services for Launchpad and transport. Okay, this is point 2. Now point 3, we need to also give an authorization template authorization. So let me just come back. How do you do that? Click on save, and now you just go to utility, go to option called, there's an option. Okay, I think that option will be there in the profile generation. So now this only in the role menu we should give this much. We go to authorizations tab now, and we got to generate a profile now. Here we got to generate a new profile. So go in this, change, say okay, and you see it's by default standard. Everything is standard. So it has got added all the service values. You see every service value has a technical name in the backend system. So all the services which you added, it has picked up the technical name for that service with which it got registered in the front end system. So it has picked up. It won't show you Z interop conf, Z interop cust. It won't show you that, but it has got it registered. So all this is given here. Now, yes, we can display technical names. So I go back to utilities and say technical names on, and you can see it's a S service authorization with following service names which are a technical service name. So in the backend, actually it won't understand what is Z interop, what is Z page builder conf. It understands this hash value, the technical value for the service. So that's what it has given an authorization to this user. Now we got to go to utilities, we got to add more authorization. So for this we go to edit, insert authorization from a template, and this is a template designed for the person who can access any service in the front end. So authorization template is what we need to select, which is IWFND RT admin. So RT admin is the user who will be able to access any service or administrator any service in the front end. So you see template for framework gateway administrator. So this authorization you need even well before you give Launchpad designer access, because if you have this authorization, then only you can create and register the service with gateway. Okay, so this is anyways there for my user, but it's also recommended, because let's say imagine you have a very fresh system, so you have to first create a role with this template so that the user can go and register the services, and then you come enhance the role with the services which I mentioned. So select this also, though the user already have, it's always a safer side if we give it. So it has come in now. So you need to add authorization for template, which is /iwfnd/rt-admin. This is an authorization template, remember. So now if you know there is something going wrong, you are not able to register the services, you can go back and check if these roles are properly assigned to you or not. Now, if all of this is done, we can just now go ahead and save this, and we can click on this generate button. Automatically it's generating a profile now for the user. Say okay, and now just come back. Okay, just say generate. It will generate a profile and it will assign a T number to it automatically. So you can see a T number is assigned and the profile got generated. It go green now. So menu is green, authorization is green. Let's come back to user, and here you just assign the user Fiori. So currently this is the user whom I want to become an administrator, or the person who will be responsible for creating the Launchpad designer or creating my Launchpad for business users. So all the users you can list down here and save it. Click on user comparison before you save, so that user icon goes green. Done, and you can see the user icon goes green here. Click on save. Done. Now this user can access the Fiori Launchpad designer. Other users cannot access Fiori Launchpad designer. So let me create another user in transaction SU01 and name it as Anubhav. I create a fresh user Anubhav just to demonstrate Anubhav, and just name this all this data and just save this user. Let's see if it has any role. No role is there. Let me create a default password for this user, so that I'll just first log in. So I will default the password, save it. So now I have a Fiori server user which I have assigned already administrator, right? He will be able to access the Launchpad designer, but this user Anubhav, which I freshly created, doesn't have any rights, so he will not be able to access the Launchpad designer. So let me show you the Launchpad designer now in the system. So I'll go to Launchpad designer over here, and the URL, as I mentioned in the last session also, the URL for Launchpad designer will be this: host port SAPBC UI2 UI2 U shell shells above Fiori Launchpad. This is the Fiori Launchpad URL, and the designer URL it will be SAPBC UI2 SAP ARSVC UPB admin and main.html. This is going to be your URL for Launchpad designer. So we got to just go back and choose it from here. Right now I've saved it in a bookmark, and I can see this Launchpad designer. You see SAP BCUI5 SAP AR SVC UPB admin main, and you see currently I've logged in with the user called Fiori server. So I can close this, and I also can open, right click, open in incognito mode. This mode will not take up the already login cookie, so it will always ask you username password. So if you open in incognito mode, you can go and check. So open Launchpad designer and it'll ask you username password. Yeah, so first let me quickly reset the username password by logging into the front-end server with Anubhav user. First time when I log in, it will ask me to change the password. Oops, looks like I did some mistake. Let me check if my caps lock is on or off. Okay, so it's off. Let me just reset the password for this user Anubhav. I go back, log on data, Generate. Oops, it generated a pretty complex password, but let me just change it. Come back. Done. Let me log in now. Did it log in? No, I think 3 times it got expired. Let me just check which system. In this system only I'm creating. It's a front-end system. Cool. So let me try login now again, guys. No, there's some problem. Let me just try to save this password here, and I will copy paste. So initial one is what I'm using. Let me go back to user maintenance, go for change, log on data, say deactivate. Now I enter the password, save this. Will I be able to log in? Yes, initial password is set. Let's try now. See, I'm trying to access EP7, which is the backend system. My bad. So I got to access the front-end system, which is here. Front-end system, I should log in, not the backend system. I think they have done a mess here. EP7 is launching. I think with backend it will launch the front end. Yeah, they've done a mess. So this is the front
Sir,
end
I have a
system.
question.
Yes. Yes, please.
So the users front and back end both should be users should be able to log on, right? Because it's connected to RFC trusted.
No, the user has to be separately created in both the systems. That's what I told in the last class also. You have to have same user in backend also if you really want to make your apps work. You remember the last session? We talked about it. I will show you that again. When we will activate one of the Fiori app, I will really show you this. See, same name users must exist in backend also. The one user which I'm creating in front end, I got to create the same thing in the backend also. If this is a business user, remember, if this is a business user, right now what am I doing is, yeah, if it is a business user, it has to be there in both the systems. But typically what they do create the users in both systems only, and the same name has to be there. Okay, this is very important. We will see it going forward. You will realize the value into it. Okay, now I am able to log in, and I have also changed the password. So what I've kept the password, let me just quickly put it here. Anubhav123, and now I will log in to this Launchpad designer here with Anubhav user. So I say Anubhav, and I will enter my password. So I would copy from here, paste it, and say login. I'm trying to access the Launchpad designer with my new user Anubhav, which I've created in this system. So let's see what happens. See, you get this error. This guy don't have an authorization for catalog page. See, there's some OData service is failing, and the OData service is page builder custom service. See, this guy don't have an authorization. He's fresh user. And now the moment I grant the role which I've created to this user Anubhav, he will become an Fiori Launchpad administrator. Hence, he or she will be able to access the Fiori Launchpad designer. So let's go ahead and give the access for this newly created role which we just now created and make Anubhav as administrator. So I will come back and to the user Anubhav here. I go to role, and just now we created a role. Let's give the access to that newly created role. So where is the role name? Let me just log off from this user right now. And here is, it was there in our server here. I go to PFCG just to open up that role. It was Z SAP UI to admin 700 new. I copy this, come back here, assign this role to the user, save, done, changes are done. I will go back and just refresh the page to see if Anubhav will be able to access the Launchpad designer or not. The moment I refresh, wow, see the game guys, it is able to access now all the Launchpad services. But see, he or she will not be able to access the tiles. See, user is not able to see the standard tiles which is there. There's another service which is failing. You can see at the bottom, it's clearly telling which thing is failing here. Some chip service authorization is not there for this user. That is the reason Anubhav is not able to access the tiles which are there in the system. But at least Launchpad Designer is open for this user. Now, this chip authorization is also available, and you should assign this. For this, there is another authorization object, but typically this is what an administrator need. An administrator also need, there are two more authorization objects which administrator would need. One is S_PB_chip and UI2_chip, and then S_service. These three authorization which is needed by an end user as well as Fiori Launchpad Designer, so that they can access all the tile data. So let me assign that to the administrator again. So I come to the role, and now I go back to the profile which is generated. I get into this, and now I'll quickly give this chip authorization. So if you are a Launchpad designer, guys, you are facing any issue like these different issues. If you are facing, you know what to do, what to tell to your basis guy. Yeah. So if I come back quickly, let me maintain all this in the PPT so that we don't forget anything. And this is all knowledge I've got it from internet. Okay, this all knowledge I learned it from internet or books. I have also written notes for all these things in a book, and I'm using that book to read out these authorization templates or authorization object names for you. Okay, I don't remember still all these things because they are pretty fresh for me as well. So now there are three authorization objects which are also needed. One is S_PB_chip. This is an authorization object. And then one is UI2_chip, and one is called S_service, which is needed for all the services available in the system. Okay, S_service. So you will be using these three authorization objects and assign it to your admin role as well. Same three things are also needed for the user as well. The user role which you will create next, for that also you would need it. But let me quickly do it for admin and then move it out, because I don't want to use my user Anubhav as an administrator, guys, in this system. Just for learning purpose I'm showing you, but Anubhav I want to use as a business user. So I will assign these three authorization to this guy. So we'll also discuss about how to create a role for business user, but first let me quickly come back and enhance this role. I'm in the profile section, and now I'm going to inject these three new authorization objects. So how do you do it? Go to change mode first of all. Am I in the change mode? Yes. Insert authorizations, and I think I should select manual input. Yes, manual input, and I should give these three authorization object names. So first one is S_PB_chip. Second is UI2_chip, and third is S_service. All the authorization related to S_service is what I also need. Okay, click on OK. It says it doesn't exist. Okay, yeah, remaining ones have come in. So now you can see it's showing yellow because we got to select these values. So make it just green, star all the values, and then come here as well for page builder, just say star. Click on save first and click on generate again. Done. This role is already granted to user Anubhav. Let's come back to the screen and refresh for Anubhav. We should be able to see the tiles as well. Yes, you can see all the tile titles as well as the data. So the chip authorization is pretty important. Without this, you will not be able to do it. There's some problem with the current catalog which I selected. That's why it's giving this. But at least other apps, transactional apps, you should be able to see it over here. You see earlier there were titles were not coming properly. Now it's coming. So this is the admin authorization. You need admin authorization, and that's how you create a role. This is the work of a basis guy, not our work. The basis guy should know it, but now you also know it. You can teach your basis guys that, see, this is how you should create a role and give it to me. I will be the Launchpad designer for my team or for this organization. Cool. So our first job is done. what is that a basis guy would need, or a Launchpad administrator would need. This is all a Launchpad administrator would need. Okay, this is very critical, guys. A lot of people don't need this. I will come to that, Charu. Hold on for some time. That pretty advanced topic. People don't understand right now what is target mapping and tiles. We will come to it. Just hold on for some time. Yeah. Yes, very good. Karun has also got one nice point here. If at all you are accessing something and there is an authorization issue, there is a transaction code called SU53 where you can go and check. So any authorization issue, the moment you get an authorization issue in SAP system and you are not sure which authorization is missing, you can always go to SU53 transaction and check it out over there. It will show you which authorization is missing for you. Because of that, you are getting an error. Okay, this is also a good point which Tarun has raised here. Very good. But if you know, prior to that only, you will never end up into having problems. You don't have to go to SU53 and find out this stuff like that. Okay, not required at all. Cool. Now moving to the user's role. So I will remove this role because I have already created this role in the past and assigned it to Fiori server user. So right now we'll just remove this role. We will remove this role itself, which we just now created. I will show you the role is already assigned to Fiori server user, which we have as an admin user in this system. So let me go to the user for Fiori server. Click on display, go to roles, and you'll see we have already created this UI2 admin role. See here, already created this. It has all the stuff which I just mentioned to you. You see, it has all this stuff already. My basis guy has already done it in this system. So with this user, Fiori server user, I will be able to create the Launchpad. Okay, so that's why I'm using Fiori server user here. You can see it will give me full access to entire content in the Launchpad. They have created the role in the same fashion the way I showed you just now. Now, moving to the next part, this is about the Launchpad designer role. What about user? User would also need certain authorization, not essentially in the front end, but also in the back end, because if you really look back our architecture once again, remember this picture all the time. User is going to access your Launchpad. Then within the Launchpad, what is that user will access? Anybody? Within the Launchpad, what is that user will access? Is it just for fun, a Launchpad? What will user do with Launchpad? User will access tiles, the apps, and now these apps will also talk to your backend, right? These apps has OData services which it is talking to backend system. Now in the backend, you also have the authorization concept. You cannot access HR data. You cannot access, confidential SD, PP data just like that. You cannot. You need certain authorizations to access this business data, right? And this is also, there's a role required in the backend which you need to give an access to the data which you have, your business data, to the user. There's a role here as well. So you need a backend role and a front end role both for user to make the Fiori app run. Now also you need a backend role for the OData services, because your services are built here, your service projects are here, and then front end page they have just a service reference created. So you need to also create a role in the backend which gives authorization to OData services. Plus on the front end side you should give an access to the roles and catalogs, which we will see it now for end user. What is that you need? So again, to begin with end user, SAP has also given a template role which you can always use, so that he will have, or he or she will have basic authorization to access the Launchpad. But the role name is SAP underscore UI2 underscore user. He's the user now. He's the business user. Okay, SAP UI2 user 700. This is the user role which SAP gives. Is a template role. Make a copy. Then all three things what I just mentioned. Apart from that, user would need roles related to services. Only two services user would need. One is interop and one is your personalization. These two services user would need role. So without this, user will not be able to access. Plus user would also need a gateway authorization template role, so that he or she will be able to access the gateway services, which is IWFND slash GW user, RTGW user. These two, this authorization template is what also user would need. This is all basis work. What I'm teaching you guys may not be relevant for all of you, but sometimes if you are stuck, you don't know where to go, how to check things, how to check stuff, you would need this. Okay, you would need this. Always important if you know additional knowledge. Then coming to very important part, you need role for group, catalog, and OData services registered with gateway. This is app specific thing what you would need. So typically what do they really do is, for any user in the company, they typically give this much in one role, which is a basic authorization for accessing the Launchpad. Just to access Launchpad. And then any app specific role, if they need, they create separate app specific roles, and as and when the users are increasing in the company, they will assign the new users these app specific role. Let's say so one person working in sales and distribution department, so they have a role specific to SD manager, SD clerk, something of that sort. Then one person working in HR, so there you have an employee role, and then you have an employee. But as we mentioned, SAP deliver out of the box roles. You can directly assign these out of the box roles to the user, and user should be able to access the Fiori apps out of the box, which we will see now how would we do it. So let's create first this role for a business user who is going to access the Launchpad. Now, as of now, I have just removed the admin role from Anubhav. If I just show you going back to the front-end system for the user Anubhav, in the front-end system, the role has been removed. So now this guy doesn't have any role at all. Say, see, there's no role. So let's try to access the actual Launchpad. Let's imagine I'm a business user and I'm going to access the Launchpad. I'm not a designer, I'm a user. So how do I access? So let's go back to incognito mode again, so that it will ask me the username password, and I say access Fiori Launchpad. So we know the URL, server, port number, SAP BC UI2 UI2 shells ABAP Fiori Launchpad.html. So this is the screen what you get. Now you must be wondering, Anubhav, the Launchpad designer, we get a Fiori look like screen. Okay, at the first login page looks like beautiful flower, but as far as this screen is concerned for Launchpad, doesn't look like that. So this screen is actually coming from NetWeaver business client. Okay, NWBC. So NetWeaver is the technical platform for running all the SAP applications. So any login authentication which needs to be done, NWBC, NetWeaver business client, has a default authentication screen. That's what has been displayed here. There is a possibility as a Launchpad designer for you to configure this screen, change this screen, which we will see in the chapter of branding. So we will see a chapter for branding. There we will understand how to really use branding stuff and make this screen changes to something of as per your company need. We'll see in that chapter. So now I will come here and enter user Anubhav, and I say Anubhav 123 my password. So fresh user trying to access the Launchpad in the company, and the moment this user try to access this Launchpad, let's see what happens. So he's a brand new user, just joined the company, don't know about anything, just got his username, password, just trying to access SAP Fiori Launchpad. Okay, so let's see what happens for this user Anubhav. As we saw, this user doesn't have any role assigned till now. So when he's trying to access, here you can see get an error called unable to load groups. See, this error will come. So if your colleagues reporting this kind of error, you know what to do. This user doesn't have the role created, or in your system your basis guy haven't created this role, or probably the role is not assigned to the user. So now first we will see how to create a user role for business user, and then assign this role to the business user, and then finally giving me access for accessing the Fiori apps out of the box. End-to-end scenario we'll see now. So let's understand creating a role. So we just now discussed about what is that bare minimum a user would need. to get rid of this error of accessing Launchpad. This is what a user would need end to end. So let's go back and create a new role here. So what I'm going to do is just make a copy of this standard SAP role and make a copy, and I just name it as new. And the moment you say copy, this time I'm not giving Z or Y. Okay, so I say copy is not in customer namespace, so you have to give a Z or Y for sure. So say Z new, say copy. I'm creating a copy. You can see it got copied now. Go for a change mode. You'll see default service authorizations for interop, launchpad, and personalization is given to this user. Now, next, as we mentioned, 3 services which we need authorization. Select this option, transaction authorization default, and now you got to add target service, and you need service metadata authorizations for interop, launchpad, and personalization service. So let's search for uh, anything which starts with Z interop. Press F4. Yes, you have it. Click on OK. Then you have Z page builder related thing. So do an F4. We need only the personalization for end user. We don't need configuration, customizing, and this service for end user. This is a business user. He should not be able to administrate stuff. Okay, he should be only able to personalize his area of expertise, his screen. Okay, so only we need this one. We don't need other one. The other ones are needed for admin. Click on OK. And now what else? We have one more called Launchpad. So Z Launchpad star F4. Here we have Launchpad. Click on OK. So these 3 service authorizations we added after copying the user. Cool. Click on copy. Done. Next, let's go to authorizations and generate the profile. Go for change. Yes. And now here we got to go to option edit authorizations from a template. Template is going to be RTGW user. So RTGW user, where is it? IWFND GW user. Here it is. This is a template for gateway user. So who should be able to have authorization to at least touch gateway. So this is the user which he's allowed to touch gateway. So click on OK. Done. There are some yellows. Just expand them and make it red. Yeah, make it green basically. This part is done. Next, we would need these 3 objects, authorization objects, UI2 chip and S service. So let's add it. Insert authorization manual input. So we would need first one UI2 chip and S underscore service. Click on OK. Expand it. Make it green. And here, make it this. That's it. That's it. Now, if you are using a specific application, then you would need authorization for that app, which we right now don't discuss. We just create this role for business user who at least be able to see the Launchpad, not the apps yet, guys, only the Launchpad. So right now you were getting an error called could not load groups. That error will go away. Save this, say okay. We got to generate now. Generation is done. Let's go back. We are good to go. Here it's done. Let's assign the user Anubhav here. So I will just add a user Anubhav here. Press enter. You see it's added. Save it. We are good to go. User comparison, just to make it green, and we are done. So this role is created and it is assigned to user Anubhav now. Okay, Anubhav, it is assigned. Now let's go back and try to refresh this Launchpad. Earlier, you remember, for the user Anubhav, you were getting an error called could not load groups. Let's press enter again or do a refresh. You see, you're not getting an error now. You're not getting any error. Let me remove the authorization. Let me remove this and show you again. Save it. Save it. Save this. Authorization is removed now. And let's come back. refresh. You see, you're getting the error. If you press F12, this is the best way to know what error you're getting. It's the best way, guys. See here in the console you will get he don't have an access to interop service. Because of that he's getting an error called could not load groups. This is the best way for debugging any application either or any Launchpad related services. This is how you'll get to know, guys. Let me quickly show you once again. If I just refresh, go to network tab, just refresh, and here you will see all the network calls going from front end to back end. We learned it in our first course also. And if you just scroll back on the top, you see there's this thing is red and it's clearly telling what is failing. So some transaction ID, and you see no authorization to access service interop, which we just added into it. If you remove if you add interop, you would need also then no authorization for adding page builder, that we have also added a personalization authorization. So all these authorizations are bare minimum for an end user. Okay, so let me add it once again for this guy Anubhav here. Press save, come back, open up the console before refresh to see if there is any error comes. So earlier there was an error. If I just do a refresh now, error will not come. See, there's another error coming. I don't know, it didn't assign properly, I guess. User comparison, I forgot. Yes, now it goes green. Save it, refresh. You see no error in the console anymore. It is able to access, the user Anubhav is able to access the Launchpad. Now Anubhav don't have an access to the apps. Okay, so let's imagine this guy Anubhav is an employee. Okay, is an employee in HR department. So if he is an employee in HR department, working in HR department as an employee, how can I give access for all the employee apps to this user Anubhav out of the box? Out of the box means SAP delivered me some apps related to employee like create leave request, manage timesheet, all these apps. How can I give an access to it? So we in the last session we discussed about the concept for content. Here comes the concept of content again. All the apps related to HCM, human capital management, stored here. Then comes business content. In this we have all the apps which are specific to a role, like employee role, manager role. And then you see here there are three things related to business: business catalog, business group, and business role. So these three things are coming hand to hand out of the box, which SAP delivers to you. So there must be a business role which is delivered for employee by SAP, which you can use and assign this role to the user Anubhav. He should be able to see all the apps related to employee out of the box without any additional effort. Now let's try this out really if it works. So let's go back and check. So can anybody tell me which is the medium through which you will check what is the role, business role, or what is the business catalog name for a particular app? Where do you check that for this particular app, this is the business role, this is the group, this is the catalog, this is the technical catalog, this is the technical role, all the details, implementation details, and the configuration details for an app? Where do you check all that? Anybody? In last session we discussed about it. Where do you check? Perfect answer, Deep. App repository. We have application repository by SAP where you can go and check all the available apps. So Fiori app repository is the place. You remember last time we checked it here. So here is where we go and check about these apps. So let me see if it's an employee. So maybe I want to give an access to my request leave app, leave request app. So I say leave request, press display. So you see all the leave request apps. So I will go here, leave request app. I showed you that this is already implemented. I have already installed the backend front-end components. This is the front-end component and this is the backend component. We already saw it was on SP10 in the backend, and in the front end it was on SP4. So these two components are already there. Now if you just scroll down, you see here the business catalog. Let's look for business catalog. Here is the business catalog name. Let's search for this business catalog in our Launchpad designer. So I come back and open up the Launchpad designer, which is open with the administrator user, and search for this business catalog. You remember the naming convention? It is SAP underscore area underscore BC stands for business catalog. BCR stands for business catalog role, and BG stands for business groups. And then you have employee X1, the first set of 25 apps, it's part of that. And you see here there are 11 apps for an employee, sorry, not 11 apps, there are 4 apps for employee and 7 target mappings. I'll come to target mapping. What is it? How does it make sense? How does it make a connection to the backend? But let's understand there are 4 apps which are available for an employee. And if you look at these apps carefully, nothing is related to manager. They all are employee related app, something which an employee does in an organization, not manager. So there has to be manager related app out of the box which SAP gives. If you can search for BC manager, you can see here there's a manager related apps which are more like approval apps. See here, approval apps. So I want employee. Anubhav guy who's joined this company is an employee in the company. So he's an employee here. Now this is just a random number 1.23. What you see is just a number. Don't go by that. It shows that how will the tile look like. It actually tells you how will the tile look like. Okay, how will the tile look like, what is the title, what is the description, what kind of icon will come, and what there will be a number which will show you how many benefits are pending, how many days of timesheet recording is pending for you. So it will just a number. It's a dynamic tile. There are three types of tiles. We will see when we will build a end-to-end custom app, creating a tile also. So there we will see it's a dynamic tile, static tile, or new tile. We'll see all 3 of them when we will build an end-to-end Fiori app and deploy it in our system and make it accessible for the end user through a tile in the Launchpad. But right now, just understand there are these 4 apps. Now, how these apps know which is the Fiori application should be launched? Which Fiori application should be launched when user click on this tile? That is done in the target mapping. You remember our last discussion in the last class? Here we talked about it in the last discussion, how these things are connected. So there is a Fiori app deployed in the system. There is a semantic object, and the relationship between these two is done in the LPD cust. But now the question is, how does your Launchpad know which tile is specific to which Fiori app? Basically, which semantic object is connected to which Fiori app? How does your Launchpad designer know? So with this, I introduce the concept for, one second, concept for target mapping. So what is target mapping? So if I just come here, what is target mapping? In the Launchpad designer, the target mapping is what controls or connects your Fiori app with the semantic object. So this, now the relationship which I'm talking here is this one. Your Fiori Launchpad connecting to this here. That is done through target mapping. So target mapping will connect your semantic object to the Launchpad designer, and LPD cust entry connect your semantic object to the Fiori apps. You see the connection, how it is going, guys? This is what you need to really understand. There are multiple things here. What connects which thing? This is the connection. So target mapping connects your Launchpad designer. Your Launchpad should know which tile. So basically within this you have tiles, right? So which tile is connecting to which semantic object is known by target mapping, and which semantic object is connected to which Fiori app is known by LPD cust. Your the entries, your LPD Launchpad entries. Okay, so let's go and understand this flow now for any of the app which is there in the system. So if you come here to one of the app, let's say my leave request. So if I go by the flow, this is the tile. How do I know how this tile is connected? How this tile is connected to semantic object? It's pretty easy. Just go to target mapping and see here leave request. This is your app. Okay, leave request, create a leave request. So this is the semantic object name. This is the action name. You remember how do we define it? Semantic object name and action name. Leave request, create leave request, and navigation type is other. This is the target mapping. So it will tell the system there are some blank target mappings. They are of no use. You can delete them. Ideally, you should have equal amount of target mapping as many tiles you have. Okay, as many tiles you have, you can delete them, they are of waste. So there are 4 apps ideally. Let's go quickly see. Pay stub, which is remuneration, leave request, benefit and timesheet. So remuneration, leave request, timesheet and benefit, this is unnecessary. This is unnecessary, you delete it. But there is a use for this also. You can have multiple target mapping, it's your choice. You can customize, you can change any point of time your where exactly your app is pointing to. We will see that when we build a pure custom app. But typically you should have one-to-one mapping between one target mapping and one tile. Okay, one-to-one mapping. So if I want to see the details, I click on this now and say configure. And now in this, if you come, you can see which is the Launchpad role. What is the this is a transactional app, and you see alias name is this my leave request. So this target mapping is now helping you to connect to your uh, LPD cust entry. So now if you come here, we are seeing the target mapping. So there is a semantic object in this target mapping. Now I will show you how it is connecting to LPD cust transaction. So let me just go to our front end system and open up the LPD cust transaction. Press enter. And here, if you come back, let's put both the things hand to hand. Let's put both the things hand to hand. It's always easy. And you can see here Launchpad instance is transactional. So if you just filter all the Launchpad instances which are transactional, oops, set filter, I want it on the Launchpad instances, click on OK. Oh, I don't know. Okay, scroll down, you will see something related to transactional. All the apps related to transactional are mapped here. See all the transactional. So you see here the name is Launchpad role is UIX01HCM. So let's search for UIXHCM01. Here it is, UIX01HCM. See the Launchpad role is transactional, HCM transactional apps. And one of the app is My Leave Request app. This is what is connecting it to LPD cust. You see. Now if you double click on this, here you see all your apps. Timesheet, benefits, leave request, yeah, all your apps. Now if you go to leave request app, you will exactly see which application it will launch in the system. Ultimately a Fiori application is deployed as a BSP application in the system, and this is your BSP application name, guys. HCM LRCRE. HCM LRCRE is your BSP application name to which it is connecting to. If you really want to cross verify for leave request application, is this the right BSP application? HCM LRCRE, go to Fiori app library and check the BSP application name there. HCM LRCRE. Let me go there. HCM LRCRE. HCM LRCRE. You see? HCM LRCRE. Now you can understand how these things are connecting with each other. See, the path for ICF node is this. The moment your components are installed, your apps are active, this is the path through which it will find the launch path for the app from the Launchpad. See how we connected all the pieces properly. So this is what something you need to go back and check in the system, guys. Very important how we connected all the pieces. So from here the target mapping is connected to a tile, and then you have a LPD cust transaction entry for that, an equivalent entry in LPD cust. And when you open this project, you come to the application entry, you will find which app it is going to launch. When we will build an end-to-end scenario, I will show one thing, extensibility scenario I will show, where we will use a standard Fiori app, create a custom app out of it, or extend a Fiori app, standard Fiori app, create it as a custom. We will deploy it in the backend. That time we will create everything end-to-end. Right now I'm just showing you how these pieces are connected so that you can cross back, you can always cross path and check back these things. So hope you understood the connection. But when we create a custom Fiori app or enhance a standard Fiori app, I will show you how to do all these things in the system. Okay, I will show you creating a tile, creating a target mapping, then coming here to LPD cust, creating an application here, an entry, and then in this I will show you how do you maintain this entry, connect it to your BSP application with this path, and how to deploy your BSP application in a BAP system. We'll see whole of this process end to end in the system, end to end in the system. Okay, so hope you understood for standard app what is the flow, and let's go back now to our example to enable the standard Fiori app out of the box. So this is about your content, this is about your business content, business catalog. Now when you have a business catalog, we will have groups also in the business catalog. So what is a group? So if you see, come back to groups, so you see there are a lot of groups. Let's go back to our Fiori app library. So here you will find the details of the group as well. Business group, business catalog group. This is the group. Copy this, search it here. You can see when this group is assigned to user, user will have access for all the 4 apps. This group contain all these 4 apps. And the catalog actually contains all the apps, and catalog can have multiple groups. Okay, we can also create more groups to a catalog. So I will show you all this scenario, how to create a custom tile and connect it to a standard Fiori app. Now your client may have a requirement that I don't want this title, my leave requests. I want to change this title for the tile. So will you recreate the whole world again? Will you recreate Fiori app for just to change this title? No. You just have to create a copy, a reference, change the tile, and then connect it again to standard Fiori app using target mapping. I will show you that scenario today only, how to change the title of your tile for end user. But right now, out of the box, if you want to give an access to the user for these Fiori apps, you need a role. So now you can search for the role, and it's there in the Fiori apps library. Here is the role name which you need, which an end user would need to access these apps. So right now when I open, I copy this role. When I open the Launchpad for user Anubhav, you see there is nothing. There is nothing. The moment I grant the role which SAP gave me, the business role, Anubhav will automatically get an access to all the Fiori apps. All the Fiori apps. Let me do that. I go back to the system for the user Anubhav. Okay. And now I go to roles, or maybe I just go back and go to PFCG transaction just to show you this role. How does this role looks like? So go to PFCG and display you this role. Let me copy the role name. It's SAP HCM BCR employee X1. I copied it, click on display. Now what does this role contain? Let's come to menu. It just has the details of the group and the catalog and the OData service which is needed to access the app. Okay, it has these 3 things, this standard role, so that user will be able to access the OData services. Sorry, the the OData services plus catalog and group. So let's copy this, let's use this role, come to users section, go for change and add Anubhav here. So right now Anubhav was not able to see anything, any app. So click on save. I granted a business catalog role to Anubhav now. Let's come back, refresh the page for Anubhav. He's a business user, and voila, you see he has got all the Fiori apps added to his home page automatically. Perfect, perfect. The moment you grant out of the box, SAP, that's what the strategy of SAP is. Instant value to their customers. You have got the content already in your system, technical catalog, technical group. Out of that, SAP also delivers you the business catalog, business group and a business role. The moment you grant the business role to the end user, out of the box, if he is a proper business user, let's say real employee and organization structure is configured for HR, then he will get these apps out of the box. Directly he can start using it. No additional effort. What you just need is SAP front-end server and the installed components in the backend. Out of the box, user is able to access now all the apps. But really, will the user be able to access these apps? Let's try that. I go to my leave request app. Is it true? Whether user will be able to access this app? Yes, you can see. User is able to access the app. Now what about other apps? Let me try this one. You see there's dot dot dot. Okay, tiles are coming 2 times because it's a configuration. So if you come here, you can see there are two groups which are created. So we can delete one group which we don't want. So just user can drag and drop this group and delete it, which user don't want. So I can delete this group. By default it comes under one group. Okay, so it's possible. It's basically the customizing which user can do to remove one group. But you see here there's one problem, dot dot dot. It's not loading the number here for timesheet. So press F12 and check if there's something wrong in the console. If there's some service which would have failed, something would have gone wrong, you will see something wrong in the console or in the network tab. So let's check if there's something wrong in the network tab. Nothing wrong as of now. So it seems to be everything okay. Let's click on the app. I click on my benefit app, and you can see there's right now no benefit data, and if at all you see there's an error coming now again. You see there's an error coming. What this error says, there's an exception coming. What is the exception? Only employee as on and category filter is supported. So there is some problem as far as the backend is concerned. The OData service which is created is not proper. That is the reason why it's failing. You remember I showed you some time back the backend component needed, and we saw the service pack level in this particular server was less. It should be SP12, but it was SP10. So I told you it may happen that app may not work because your front end and back end is not compatible. So that's a problem here. We don't have a proper backend component respective to that. That's why it's not working. But you saw out of the box how to enable an app. Now comes very important topic. What about if I want to change the title? Yes, Charu, you have any question? Suppose there is some other error. Okay, if there is some other error, what you can do is probably it is because of the service role is not authorized to the user. In the backend system, user may not have the role. I will show you that now. So let me assume Anubhav is also manager. Okay, I have a case for that. Let's assume Anubhav is a manager also. So I want to give an access for all the manager apps as well to Anubhav. So what I will do, manager will typically have all the apps related to approval as well. So I will come here and say leave approve and leave approve app, or I would just say approval apps. So here you must find the leave approval app, approve leave request, approve timesheet. Yes, so there must be a role for a manager as well. So here is the role, SAP HCM BCR manager X1. So let's use this one. Come back here and grant this role also to Anubhav. So we go back to our front end system, just open up the role, go for change, and give this to Anubhav as well. So Anubhav is also a manager. So let's give this and just do a user comparison, say yes. Cool, save this, done. Now let's refresh for Anubhav. Anubhav will also get all the apps related to manager. You see, manager apps. But oops, what I see is I don't see the apps here. So user would probably have to customize this. Click on plus button and it's loading the catalog now with all the apps, and you can see oops, I don't see any app for manager. There's no app here for manager. There's something wrong. Why? Anubhav is not able to see any app related to manager. Press F12 and check. Press F12 and check what is going wrong. So come to console and just do a refresh. There is something wrong. So just come to network. See, there is something wrong. I'm not sure. There's something wrong. So Anubhav is not able to see apps for manager. Let's try with another user. So what I will do is try with Fiori server user. So I will open another session, open Fiori Launchpad. Oops, I think it's taking Anubhav's user even in the incognito mode. Let me try with another user, incognito mode window. Yes, that's what I'm trying to show you. So what happens is you need backend role also. So if I just say Fiori server, let me grant these two roles for Fiori server. So right now you see Fiori server user doesn't see any app any apps. So let me grant these two to Fiori server as well. So I grant manager role, Fiori server user. Come back, refresh the page. Now you can see Fiori server user is able to see manager apps the moment I grant the role. There may be some extra roles, guys, which I might have missed, which is not there for the basic role for Anubhav. Because of that, these tiles were not coming. But you see there's an error. There is this error coming. Why this error coming? How can you kill these type of errors? So on front-end system, the moment you grant the business catalog role, user should be able to see the tiles. But as we saw the architecture, there is a role required in the backend also for user to access the business data. This we have not done, and that's why this error is coming. Okay, so if you see approve timesheet app, there is an error at the bottom. So how do you check these things? Press F12, go to console, you can see all the errors here. You can see all the errors. See, there's a page builder chip error as well. There are a lot of errors, and you see there is one more error called SRA10 timesheet approval SRV. This service is failing. There's this service which is failing, and it's calling the backend system and it's failing actually. That is the reason it's not working. So you would also need the backend role for the service and assign it to the same user. So let me do that. I log into backend system now, which is nothing but EP7 system, and create a Z role here as well for services. So let me create a Z role, Z manager, click on single role, manager, and click on menu and give the authorization for OData service to this. How do we add it? Pretty simple. Go here and select authorization default, and all the other authorization, of course, guys, related to HR has to be given, which I am not aware of. So now you got to select target service and select service enablement, and now quickly go back to your Fiori app library and check what is the OData service which the user need authorization for. So user would need authorization for this OData service. You can see in the backend, enter this here, just put a star after this and do an F4. It's not even registered. See, the OData service is not even registered. It's not even showing here, which means we have not even registered the service in the front end. That's why the error is coming. So let's go to front end and register the OData service for the first time. So this particular service related to the app for manager, the OData service itself is not registered. Approve timesheet app, the OData service itself is not registered. That's why this error is coming. So let's go back and register this service. So what I will do is go to transaction for registering the service /IWFND/maint service. Press enter and click on add service and select your backend system to which the service has to connect and get the data, which is your EHP server. And now enter your technical service name. Press enter. You can see your service, guys. This is how you should register also the Launchpad services for the first time. Select this and add selected service. I just do that, add selected service. Local object right now I'm doing. You should do it in a package and release it to your development quality and production systems. Click on OK. Done. Now, if you see the service is added, let's come back and refresh the page. Let's refresh the page. And you can see now it's coming ... The error is gone related to that service. I get inside to the app and I think I should be able to access the app at least. Now there's another error which is coming related to HTTP request failed. This is what something which we probably need to check. Charu has a question. How did you see data provider class for the service you have just added? We don't need to add data provider class. We just need to add the service name as per the Fiori app library. So in the Fiori apps library, you have the OData service name here. That's it. This is what you need to add. You just need to give an access to the service. And of course, there may be some other authorization checks in the backend system which you would like to include in the same role. Once you do that, your entire end-to-end flow will work. Okay, if the app fails to provide the data, that could be because of any other reason. So what typically might have happened, you have a OData service. Okay, you have an OData service, and this OData service has a DPC class. Let's imagine. So you have an OData service. Let's say you have a OData service. This OData service, how come it is handling all your requests? Because you have a DPC class, DPC extension class. Now this DPC extension class is calling some functions of another class. Let's say it's HR. So it's calling some functions of HR class. Typically we call it as API layer. This is your API layer of the actual application. Now this class is calling something called a database class, a DB class. This is called DB layer. Now this DB class is having the actual insert, select, update, delete, all the DML operations on your actual data. So you have multi-layer architecture in every application, guys. You don't have a direct call to data. You have a multi-layer architecture like this. Now in this API layer, there may be some authority checks done in a BAP. In this, there may be some other authority checks done in a BAP. Now any of the authorization check fails, you're gonna get an exception. So what is the best way? When you have a call coming to OData service and DPC extension, from there to other API layer, you got to check in SU53, is there any authority check which is failing? And according to that, design your role, which is a end-to-end role which gives an access to OData service plus these authorization as well. With that, you should be good to go to get the data. So that is what you need to check. Now, how do you debug? Because your call is coming from the UI. User is talking to UI. So there's a UI here. There is a Fiori app and user is talking to this Fiori app. Okay. And this Fiori app is then running in the front end server. And then this is connecting to backend server, and backend using OData service is connecting to backend server. OData is registered in the front end. And then you have a backend server where you have a DPC implementation. And then this DPC is calling something and sort of all these calls are going from multiple layers. How do you debug in backend? I will show you that now. How to debug an application from Fiori app where a user is connected. So let's say there is this user called Anubhav who is connected. Okay, this user is Anubhav. His name is Anubhav. But my user, who I'm a developer, and my user is different than Anubhav. So when he is calling something, how can I debug? Typically what we learned till date is when somebody report a bug, what do? We go log in, we try to reproduce the error with our user only, and then we debug. But here this is another user. How do you debug for another user? You are a developer, and let's say the developer ID is Fiori server. So how do you debug your DPC class or something else for this purpose? We will see that next. Now first let's complete this. So we saw here there's some other error coming, press F12. So any error when it comes, you can always press F12 and check what is going wrong. There is an error coming in the back end, see? Check this transaction IWFND error log. We can go back and check this. There is an also error, cannot load metadata for this service SRA10 timesheet approval SRV. It cannot load the metadata for this OData service. Go to network tab, refresh again, and then you can see what exactly gone wrong, why it's not working. So you see here this is an error. Double click on this call and you see there it's saying that check error log transaction. There may be something wrong in the backend. So you got to check this. So let's go back to our backend system and see the error log. Since my app is failing, you can always go and check in the backend error log. So let's come back here, check the error log. This is the error. Not allowed for resource identified by data service. The specified HTTP method is not allowed for the resource identified data service request URI. Looks like it's an authorization issue for the user Fiori server. Let's quickly add now the service as part of a role and add that role to the Fiori server user. We should be good to go and able to access this, because this HTTP request is now not allowed by the backend. So the front end side user is good. User has the role, user has the catalog, groups, everything is okay. But on the backend side, this service is access is not allowed. So let's go and check and create quickly a role. So in the backend, I'm gonna create a role for that service. So /n pfcg and create a Z role in the backend for manager, and now search for that service which we want to allow an access. So come here, click on plus, authorization default, and add the service in the backend. Give the service access basically in the backend. So here, was it really this? So let's go and check in the Fiori app repository. What's the service name? SRA 010 timesheet approval SRV. SRA 010 timesheet approval SRV. Earlier we were not able to find it. Now let me just check. Oops, looks like again I'm not able to find this. Why? Because it is registered as a Z service. Just go back and check here, guys, in your gateway registration for this service. Service name. Let's go and take the service name, or with what name it is registered. That's what is important. So it is registered on what name? It's registered ZSRA 010 timesheet approval SRV. This is the name with which it is registered. So the metadata access it will show in the backend. The metadata access it will show in the backend, guys. So I'll just come here, just search for this ZF4. Why it is not showing? There's some problem. Yes, here it is. SRA 10 service timesheet approval SRV 001. Select this, say OK. Click on copy. It has come here. I've got a user. Let me assign it to the user. Fiori server. User comparison. Yes. So we have granted now the service role from the backend as well, because we saw in the gateway client it was giving an error for this user. That user doesn't have rights to access the HTTP call for this particular service. Now I saved it. Let's refresh the screen and check it out. It is still giving the error, which means there's some other problem, guys. There is some other problem. It's still giving the error. You can see here there is an error coming. There is some error. Maybe I need to check this. There is some problem. You see resource not found for segment time pending. This happens because your backend and front end is not compatible. If I quickly show you again for this particular app, if you look at the components in the backend component, this is the component required, which is support pack 6, SRA 10, SRA 010 SP6 is required in the backend. Let me go back and check the SP level for SRA 010 in the backend. So I go back to our backend system, status, SRA 010, what is the support pack level? So it is definitely an issue with our incompatibility between backend and front end. I will talk to the basis guy and get this component installed. So where is that? SRA 010 is what we are interested. So let's go and check. There is no SRA. Let me sort it. Zero one zero. Here it is. You see the support pack level is 0, guys. SRA 010. The support pack level is 0. What was the support pack level required to make this app run in the backend properly? 6. That's the problem. Your backend is not compatible with your front end. And that's why this app cannot be executed. That's why you're getting an HTTP error. So this Fiori apps library is really helpful for you to identify which are all the components which are not compatible or not available in the system. So this could be one reason. Though you do everything correct, you have a front-end role created, you assign it to the user, you have a backend role created which has the access for the service and the data of the application, assigned it to the backend user, but still it may not work because of this reason. Still it may not work. Now here your debugging will also not work because this is a base problem. Your call will not at all come to the system. Okay, so now I will show you how to debug. So this anyways, this is definitely an installation issue. It has nothing to do with our code, nothing to do with our role concept, or nothing to do with Launchpad. But yes, this is an issue with respect to the installation. So I will notify the basis colleague and they will solve this issue in the server. They will install the right software component so that we should be able to access these apps in the system. But now coming back to an app which is okay. So let's see an app which is okay. So I will probably log in again with my user Anubhav, which has employee app access. So let me just log in again with Launchpad with Anubhav user, which has some employee apps access. So I just close this and log in again to the Launchpad with user Anubhav. And there are some apps. And how do you now debug? So there is a user whose name is Anubhav and he is using some app. He notified you an issue. So now Anubhav is using some app here and he come and tell you that there is some issue with your app. Okay. So how do you actually solve the issue? How do you debug when Anubhav reports an issue? And your user ID is Fiori server. So let me just check if there is some service which I can debug and show you, at least the breakpoint if we can hit. So I go to my leave request app and you see it's calling some OData service, leave request collection it's calling. There's an entity set in the service called leave request collection which it is calling. Yeah, leave request collection. So now first of all, double click here. You will get to know the service name. See, the service name is leave request version 2. In this there is an entity set called leave request collection. Okay, this is the service leave request. So now we got to go back to the system and check what is the service project for leave request app. So if I come back again to Fiori apps library, let's search for leave request application. What is my OData service name? This is the OData service name. Copy this, come to the backend. So remember, I logged into the backend as a Fiori server user. See, I logged into the backend as a Fiori server user, but who is the user who is working with Fiori app? Anyone? What is the user working with Fiori app? Who is the user working with Fiori app? Anubhav is the user, but I logged in as the Fiori server as a developer. I am a developer, so I need to debug when Anubhav does something on the screen in the front end system. So go to the service project SAPBW, open the service project here. Oops, this is right service project. Let me search. What is the service project name? What is the service project name? I think this is just a registration. What is the service project name? Maybe I need to trace it from the front end system. I go to front end system and check the registered service for leave request app. So I apply a filter. We did not create this SAPBW project. This is delivered by SAP out of the box. That's how the backend data is accessed by you, right? SAP delivered this project to us. We did not create it, of course. So I search here the service name. Oh, it's not there. How come? It's not there. How come? How come it's not there? This is the OData service name, backend authorization role. See guys, they've also given the role which is needed to the user to access the service in the backend. They've clearly given this here. So you can assign this to the user. User will have an access to the service. You don't have to create a Z role for that. Now, let me enter it here. Backend service already registered with the server. Let's go and check what service it has registered already. I want to basically know the project name which is there in the backend system for this service, for this OData service. Okay, so I just want to know that. So the filter, service name, enter. Why it's not displaying? I want to just know the service project name which it is hitting in the backend. That's what I just want to know. Description. So let's search for timesheet, which app I'm accessing. I'm accessing leave request app. So let's see what is the service they have registered here for leave request. SRA 004. Let's go to Fiori app. That's the component name. That's the component name, SRA 004, right? It's not the service name. Technical catalog, role. Let me check guys. Hold on. Let me check the service name which they've registered for leave request app. I just do a filter again and search for leave. Click on OK. Yes. So this is the leave request approval app. This is the leave request app version 2, what they have registered. Leave request is the name of the service. Leave request is the name of the service project, and namespace is GBHCM. So let's go to the backend and search for leave request, the service project. This is our backend, and here we see if it is there already. Leave request. It is already open or not. And then we will go to its DPC class and try to debug. Why it is not showing? Is it directly implemented in front end? Maybe. This is just a service name. Fiori backend. It's connecting to the another system. See guys, Fiori backend TRU. It's connecting to another system. It's connecting to this system. Let me log in here. EP7 SCGW, or I'll go to SE24 and try to find out its DPC class. So I'll just search for the DPC class. What is the DPC class it is using? That's what I want. Let me just put here DPC ext. No, it's not showing. So basically I am not able to find the DPC class name for this particular OData service, what they've registered. They have not implemented this in the same system. Let me check if they have implemented in the same system. They have implemented in the backend system. You can see it's going to the backend system. I don't know the DPC class for that actually. That's what I'm looking for. HCM, let me try. Or we can also search for the project for HCM related services. So let me open this up, star HCM star, all the HCM related OData projects. No, it's not showing here. Why? Ideally it should. Let's press F4. These are all the OData name. Travel request. Let's search for travel request. Timesheet. Travel request. Timesheet. Yes, we can use it, but I'm just trying to search here the OData service project name. All are Z below. So it must be from one of these related to leave request. See, here are we have for timesheet guys, travel request, we have pay slip, employee benefits, travel request again, timesheet approval, price, sales, which is the OData project for leave request app. Not really sure. Let's try this one. Let's try this one and check if we have all the entities in this one. SR is 004. Let me check the data model. Not really. Not really. Maybe I need to check which is the project name related to that. Let me quickly check it. So I'll quickly do a Google for this to check which is the service project name related to my leave request app. Let me search for that. Service project related to leave request app. There has to be a service project name, OData service project name guys. Gateway. I'm searching for that. HCM leave request create a survey. I'm not able to find it. I'm not able to find it guys. I'm really not able to find it. So give me some time. I will try to find the OData project name and then I will show you how to debug the OData service in the backend. So let's try for another app in the meantime if we can find it out. So maybe I'll just check the another app other than the leave request app. HCM leave REQ create SRV. This is the service name. This is the service name. Let me just check. See here, the external service name is leave request. Okay, it's registered with the namespace this one here, and it's there in the backend system. It's connecting to the backend system. Now, if I just go back to the backend system, here I want to know the project name. So let me just go here to the transaction means service here and check with what name they have registered here. This one. I think this is the one. See guys here, HRESS leave request service. This is the one they would have used to register it with the front end, probably. So let's give a shot to this. I don't think so any other service here. So this is the one I think, and the external service name is also mentioned here. So it's there in the local also, it's registered. So let me check this one. I will go to the service implementation. And here I can see the DPC class. See, it's not typical DPC underscore ext. It is something else. Let's go into this DPC class now, and I will see if there is an entity set for that. So what entity set we were looking forward for? It was leave request collection. So leave request was my entity set. Leave request collection was my entity set name. So let's see here. Get entity set. If I go inside, Now if I want to see if it hits a breakpoint with Anubhav user, so I am logged in into the server with user Fiori server. See here, I've logged in into the server with Fiori server user, but the user who is connected on the UI is Anubhav. So how can I debug? Because when user hit this particular navigate to the Fiori application in the front end, I may not have the control. Typically as a developer, what we used to do, we used to reproduce the issue in our system with our user ID and then we debug. But now here the user is different and you want to debug with that. How can you do it? First of all, you have to set an external breakpoint. You can see the external breakpoint is set. Now go to utilities, settings, debugging, and change the user ID here. Change the user ID here. Now this is one reason guys why with user Anubhav you were not able to see the apps related to manager, probably because the user doesn't exist in EP7 in your backend system. Let me create the user in the backend system also, /o su01. Let me create this user in the backend system again. So this is what I think one mistake I did. I did not create this user in the backend. So there's no connection. That's why you are not able to access most of the apps of this user from front end to back end. So I'm creating it now. I will also grant the role related to ESS and MSS OData services. So let's go back to our Fiori apps implementation, Fiori app library, and here you will see for leave request app, this is the OData backend role which is needed. So I will grant it here, press enter, done. Let's see also for the approval app, which is the backend role needed. This is the role needed. I will grant this as well. Click on save. The user is now created. Please enter the initial password. Let me enter the initial password. So this was one step which I missed, why I was not able to see the manager app for this user in the backend. So let me try this now. Your user must exist in backend. This is very important, very, very important. Okay, let me enter the password. Done. Now let me quickly connect with user Anubhav to the backend. Done. Done. Cool. So we have connected it now to the backend. Let's close this system and now check the debugger for Anubhav. So I will come back to class builder. Here I've set an external debugger. Go to utilities, settings, go to debugging and enter the username who is connected to the front-end server. That username you must enter here so that the breakpoint will be set for that user. Any call made by that user to the backend at any point can be debugged here. Click on OK. Anubhav is not authorized for debugging, you can see. So which means we need to quickly go back and change the assign a role to the user Anubhav in the backend system. So let me quickly go back and assign a Z role, Z trust, save this, and now try one more time so that this user, if it can debug. So let's try. No, he is not still having authorization for debugging. I think it needs S develop authorization. So let me give the S develop authorization to the user. So what I will do is I will create a quick Z role as a developer role and grant it to this user. Okay, so I create a Z role in backend system, PFCG, a developer role, create it, go to authorizations, developer, create a profile, and we got to grant the developer role to the user, especially the gateway developer role. So you can see here the ready-made templates also. In the backend you can grant the developer role with this template available, template for SAP NetWeaver Gateway Developer. Select this, adopt the reference. It will automatically get you the S developer role. for this user. So if you can just make the technical names on, expand everything, you can see, should be able to see as develop role somewhere. So let's grant everything here, green, SCTS administrator, tabular, distance, let me search for as develop. Should be having definitely as, yes, you can see here guys, as develop role is granted to this user. So now this user can do the debugging. So let me give all the authorizations to the user. Too many things. Save this. Cool. I think Anubhav can debug now. With the Anubhav user ID, we can debug actually. So go back, generate the profile, and I will grant this role to the user Anubhav. Let me do this to Anubhav. User currently logged by, okay, the user is currently being edited by this user. So here I'll just come out and grant this role to user Anubhav. So this is how you should enable debugging for the user. Save this, done. Compare, make it green, and now just done. So now if you user will hit anything from the front end, your backend breakpoint should hit. Go to utilities, settings, debugging, and just enter user ID Anubhav. You see already you are logged in with Fiori server. Do you wish to keep them for the user? You say yes, done. That's it. This is how you set up a breakpoint for a front-end user in the backend for debugging with your user ID when you log in. So now let me go back and try to access a couple of apps here for user Anubhav. Let me refresh this whole stuff. It's refreshing the Miley request app, but looks like guys, it's not hitting the breakpoint. I'm sure it's a problem with related to some the class name. We have not chosen the right class name, I think. I'm sure about it. So I need to probably find the right class name, the right project, right DPC class, so that I can show you this breakpoint will hit. Now, in the meantime, you remember we were earlier facing the issue related to this manager app was not loading, but now it's loading. You can see the number is also coming here. This was happening because the user does not exist in the backend. Anubhav user was not existing in the backend. That is the reason why it was not working. So the moment I create the same user with same user ID in the backend, it started bringing the manager catalog as well to me. So this is how you enable the Fiori apps out of the box. And in the next session, probably once I find the class name for HCM related services DPC class, I should be able to show you how to debug in the backend from the front end user. We will also see how to customize these styles. So you see the title for the app, it's out of the box, standard. What if I just want to change the title for this Fiori app? How can I change it? So that's what we'll see in the next class, how to adapt the target mapping, how to change them, how to change the tiles instead of standard tiles, how to create it by reference, how to break the reference from the standard objects. All these things we'll see in the next class. We'll also talk about the debugging, then we'll see the team designer. We'll also see how to customize Fiori Launchpad to make it available for your own brand. So your company will have a specified theme, the look and feel. You can customize that. Instead of NetWeaver business client login screen, you can bring in your own login screen with a nice picture into it. All that we'll see in the next class. So you got basic idea about how to create the roles, how to assign the roles, what is an administrator role, user role, what are all the catalog roles. We'll also see creating our own roles and our own catalogs. So I will show you, let's say in a company, if you have an employee and this employee is working serving multiple departments. Let's say he is in HR as an employee. He's also serving in sales and distribution department. So he would need different types of app access. So he would need access for Miley request app. At the same time, he would also need access for the app related to sales and distribution. Let's say create a purchase order, create a sales order, right? So how do you create such a group which is a combination of apps coming from different areas. So one app from HCM, one app from SD, one app from CRM, and then one app from retail area, and then all four combined under one single group. So this is out of the box what SAP gives. What about in my company? I have a different requirement. How can I adapt it? So for that, we have to create a custom catalog and custom groups, and then use technical SAP catalog to bring in all the tiles from there and put them as a reference into one single group, and then assign this group in catalog to the user, so user should be able to see the apps within one. So that type of scenario also we will see in the next class. Any questions before we close? So unfortunately I cannot find the right project name, guys, in the backend. Otherwise I would have showed you the debugging as well. For HANA DB there are two options available. One is HANA DB running on top of on top of HANA database. You are running business suite, so there you still need gateway. It's called suite on HANA. So if your database is being used as a primary database, HANA is used as a primary database on business suite, you still need gateway. But if you are building a native HANA app, native HANA app means it's called Access.js, server-side JavaScript applications, you would not need any gateway. There you can directly create access-based OData services. That's my next target. I'm going to launch a new course onto that, a pure native HANA application development using server-side JavaScript. That's going to be our next goal. And also using HANA predictive analysis, a little bit of modeling in HANA, creating analytics app, using Access.js, Access OData, core data services, and also a app on HANA. That's going to be my next goal. So you would not need, if it's a native HANA app, if it's a business suite running on HANA, which is suite on HANA or S4 HANA, you would still need the gateway server. Hope that answered your question, Charu. Okay, so that's it for the day. Let's meet tomorrow at the same time and we'll discuss about debugging. I'll try to find out, and also I'll try to explain you the way to find out the actual OData class name in the backend system for a given service. There is definitely a problem with this particular server. There are a problem related to add-ons mismatching. We saw it in the backend server. There's a support pack which is missing. Because of that, most of my apps I cannot really show you running them in the action. But yes, you would try this thing in your company. I'm sure you will be able to activate these apps and make them work seamlessly in your demo environment or productive environment. On that note, it's a wrap. Have a nice day and goodbye. See you tomorrow.